Hey, it's Nono, and I'm gonna show you how to make a quick start project of Folio. So Folio is, let me open that. So Folio is the content management system that I'm currently building for Laravel as an open source project. So as you can see here, there are a few sites that already run this beta content management system as production environment software. So this is actually running on my personal website. You can see it's serving a lot of different website layouts and also Getting Simple. So the site of my podcast and some of my writing and some other sites. You can see there's a diverse range of different layouts. That's because, in Laravel, you can just build custom view templates to customize whatever HTML, CSS, and JavaScript you want to. And this is something that is the core capability of the system, that each page is going to have its own template, but the backend system where you can click here, if you're an admin, you can click here on edit. Every single page, or that's the idea, right? Instead of just being a simple Laravel page, would be a folio item, right? So these items have definition. For instance, this one that I showed before here is what's called a Folio Collection. So it has a set of items that are tagged with these tags, and here you define the template, and here you can edit the title and other content. So if I go, for instance, to one of these posts, you see that the template to render this item is completely different. And here there's like English text and Spanish text and what the image is and some other properties. And here we define the template. So if I were to choose a different template here, we would render the same content with a different layout. So you can see that really easily just going here, right? So here we have that same item that I showed before with a different layout. So what am I going to do today, and why am I talking about Folio? So I'm preparing a quick start Folio repo. So this means it's going to be a empty Laravel app that just has Folio installed on it to be able to quickly clone that repo and get started with a new Folio and Laravel project in no time. So we can see that here the used by projects in Folio, the only one listed is Folio Quick Start. So this is an older version of the Quick Start that I want to make today with you, but with the Laravel 6 version of Folio. So I recently updated Folio to version 7 of Laravel. So this is, you can see here there's a 7 version, and here is the simplified version of the installation instructions that you need to run to be able to have a Folio website. There's a few more things that are just characteristic of creating a Laravel app that you need to make as well, and we're going to do today, but that's not specific to Folio. So if you have an already working Laravel 7 application in your system, you could be just running these commands and everything should work fine for you. Okay, so after seeing this overview of what Folio is and what we're going to do today, what I want to do now is go to that repo that is already existing, and I'm going to rename this one because we're going to sort of overwrite. So this Folio Quick Start is the repo that we want to have created today. So we're going to change the name to Folio Quick Start 6. I'm going to create a new repository. So this is going to be the same name that this repo had before. So Folio Quick Start. And everything looks good. It's going to be empty because I'm going to start off from a Laravel installation. So we just click on Create Project, Create Repository. So this is an empty repository. And now we're going to go and head to the terminal. So with the terminal, we're going to go to the desktop and So let me make this bigger. You can see, maybe not that big. There. So we're on the desktop of this machine, and I have Composer installed on my system. So this is gonna allow me to easily create a new Laravel app. So I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna just use I don't even know if I have the, I have the Laravel command installed as well. So there's two ways that you could create an app. One would be Composer, create project, preferred dist, Laravel, and then you say my app or something. So the name of the folder that you wanna create this project with. So that's gonna be Folio Quick Start, as we said. And this is going to clone the Laravel repo, and it's going to install with Composer all the PHP dependencies that you are required to be able to use this application and run the Laravel application already. I have what's called Laravel Valet installed on my system. This is an application that Laravel ships for Mac OS that lets you skip a lot of the configuration with Nginx and DNS mask and MySQL and PHP. And what that does is just with one command, I can bind that folder that I just created up there into a Nginx block, which means that I can access it as a debugging or development environment on my browser locally on my computer. So as you can see, this is installing a lot of dependencies, and as soon as we finish, we're going to try to access that application and also try to create the same application that we just did with the Laravel command instead of the Composer command. Okay, so these will take longer or faster depending on whether your Laravel application you've installed recently. As you can see, a lot of stuff here is being loaded from the cache because I use Laravel a lot, and many of these packages were already on my system in some way, so they're just unpacking them, and we have the application created. So we can enter this directory, and the usual way that you would run this application would be with PHP artisan serve. You can specify a port like this, but the default is 8000. And you can see that the Laravel development server is running there, right? So we can use this URL, so you can just copy and paste, and or we can even do it from the terminal, like that better. So you can open that URL, that gets open there, and as you can see, I have a fresh Laravel application running on my system. So this application doesn't have, it has the boilerplate Laravel template that you would expect. We can play with it now. And the cooler way that I like to do this, if I do Ballet links, right, this shows me a set of PHP applications that I have linked on my system. A bit boring, I don't have a lot of stuff here. But if I just do Valet link, this application creates a symbolic link, and that's all the configuration that I need to be able to run this as folio-quickstart.test. We can see this in Valet links. You can see that, the Folio Quickstart application has the folio-quickstart test URL. So we can just go and open that. That way, this application that before we had to have running, with a command, and if we close the terminal, it would go away. It's running all the time on my system. You can see where it's running. If you run view services list, you're going to see that Valet actually installs for you a few services that will run. So for example, here we have DNS masks, MySQL, Nginx, PHP 7.3 in this case, and those are running. If I stop any of those, or if I close or stop Valet, it will those will come down. Okay, so what we have here, we have the Folio application, so the Laravel application without Folio running, And the first thing I wanted to show before we continue, I said before I have the Laravel installer installed on my system. You can install this with Composer globally. And with this, the command that we did before, where we run Composer create project, blah, 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 all these things, you might memorize that. I've run it so many times, I remember it. But with Laravel, you can just do Laravel new blog or app or folio quick start, we call it before. So let's do new app. And now Laravel will take care of creating the application. This is doing exactly the same process. It's just creating an application in here, and it's installing the dependencies on the vendor directory, and we'll be able to link it and run it the same way, right? While this is installing, I'm gonna go to a previous application, and even though we named it Folio Quick Start, and we can see the links there, right? That's the automatic. I could do valet link, and now when I run valet links, I don't see that, right? If I do valet link, it will create the same symlink with the same domain, but even if you have a long domain name, you might not want to be writing that URL all the time for development. So you can do valet link and now say folio. And now the symlink is going to be for folio.test instead of folio-quickstart. So we can now open that. You can see that this works, but the previous addresses don't exist, right? This one does not exist because we're not running that server anymore. This one does not exist. It points to valet's test TLD that is local. So any domain that you put .test, that's going to be there. But now we have it linked with folio.test. And okay, going back to that window, application ready build something amazing. So these, if we go to application directory, we can do valet link. And now the symbolic link is created for app.test. Same thing we got, but different application. You can see also that, if you look at valet links, this is here. An interesting thing, if I delete this folder, now when we run valet links, valet sees that folder doesn't exist anymore, so it removes the symlink for you. So it's a nice way. You don't have to deal with deleted directories and things like that. Okay, recapping a bit. We have this Folio Quick Start directory here. Let's see what's in there. So this is a fresh Laravel 7 install, right? We can see exactly, let me just go to the folder. You can see that this is a new Laravel application that is empty, right? It ships with whatever Laravel ships. So it's Laravel 7 plus, right? This caret means that it will install the latest 7 point something that exists. Is what's now called like 7x, right? Whatever the latest is. And you can actually see the version if you do Composer show. You can see all the packages that are installed. We can do grep Laravel. And with this, you see Laravel Framework 7.4 that was released a few days ago. And before, with the same dependency definition, we would have 7.3 installed. That means there are no breaking changes and our application is unlikely to break. All right, so what were we going to do today? We were going to, add a new empty Laravel application that only had Folio and whatever you needed for Folio to run on your computer. I mentioned that, you just need to follow these steps. Let's open I'm just recently creating a Gitbook, so I intend to create better documentation because there are some hidden things in Folio that are not exposed yet. So this allows you to copy paste code blocks, and it's a bit nicer in terms of following this as a guide. The first thing I'm going to do before following that guide is that we have this empty repo, and I'm going to init a new, you see if I do git status in this, you see that it's not a Git repository. So what we need to do now is we need to init git repo. So we do here git init, and now we do have a repo. There's a lot of stuff that's new. Laravel already ships with a git ignore file, has a lot of good things. We can add something really bothers me usually here is the store files that macOS generates for you. So I'll add that before doing anything. And now I need to add the origin remote where I'm going to put this SSH address on GitHub. So I just add that. And now that we have all these changes, we just add everything to the changes that Git add. And now we're just going to do initial commit with a fresh Laravel 7x install. So I do that, I push it. This is a command that I have automatically text expanded that does git push origin and the current branch. So I don't have to be writing git push origin master or git push origin dev or whatever branch I'm in. I just do git pull with this automation with the current branch and then git push with the same automation. Okay, so if we go to the empty repo, now we can see it's not empty anymore. So this is a Laravel 7 fresh installed app, and now we just need to follow the README instructions. So we do need to add a few alternative version control system repos linking in Laravel 7 for Folio to work, because these two packages that I'm using are external and haven't been updated to have Laravel 7 support. So this is the first step that we're going to do. And just to leave that as a trail on the commit history, I'm going to commit at every stage. Every step that we do, we're going to try to commit. And that way you're going to be able to see how each of the changes have been done afterwards on the commit history. So, okay, let's get started with that. So we have the composer file here on the fresh Laravel 7 install. And we go up here to repositories. Well, I mean, just to the composer JSON, and I just paste that. If you were to create that from scratch, you would just have to create this block and stuff. What's also really nice that I'll show later, hopefully, is how to symlink a local version of Folio or any other package that you're developing locally or modifying from here. So the version that gets installed is not the one that is on GitHub, but the one that you have on your disk. So every changes that you make to the files will show up on your Laravel application straight away. Okay, so we have these two, and these are just the alternative version control sources for two packages that are required by Folio, and you can see those here. So one and ignore these two things for now, because that these will only work. Actually need to update this one. This will only work if you do composer update or install in Folio, right? And that's just for development, so you don't need that right now. There's a bunch of dependencies here. Probably we shouldn't have that many, but the Laravel IMGIX and the versionable, I don't find it now, the versionable package, these don't exist for Laravel 7 as far as I know yet. I'll check in a few weeks to see if they have upgraded them or if somebody has made a patch for them. Okay, so going back to here, right? We're gonna, as I said, I'm gonna commit in every step on the way. So I'm just gonna do git add all, and now here add alternative VC sources for packages without Laravel 7 support, right? So push that. And many of you might be familiar with Git, but what that does is that it saves this individual change as one commit in the commit history on the repo. And now we can click here and we can see that what these, so the difference between this and the previous state is that I added these green lines. You'll see in red what has been removed, in green what I've added. Okay, let's move forward. So you can see nothing changes on my side on Folio here. Let me just put that here. We have some room space. Okay, so just following here. See how this is visualized like this. Yeah, the GitHub page is not really responsive, so let's just keep it like this. We have a next step that is composer require Folio. We don't need to do this right now. We need to update this because dev master, so we can just consume dev master because dev master is now up to date with 7x. So I'm just gonna run this command here. So composer require Nono ESP Folio dev master. So this is exactly the same that if I were to write this dependency inside of the composer.json file. So just here, you can see that that's what Folio, so composer is going to do. Let me just actually run this command in this window, so we have one single view for everything. Pump up the font size there. Okay, so this command, after it resolves and figures out that with our current Laravel version everything's okay, what it's going to do is that's gonna add, the font it just did, the Folio dependency here with the version we told it. It's gonna now try to resolve those dependencies and install them. If it wasn't able to do it, it will revert back and leave the composer file as it was before. But as of now, we can see that the change that we're gonna do in this commit is just adding a comma and this Nono ESP Folio dev master dependency for a project. Okay, so while that's running, because this sometimes can take a bit to figure out, and even more when you have alternative repository URLs there, let's continue with our tutorial instructions. So again, the next thing is after Folio installs, we're gonna run the PHP artisan Folio install command. That is a command I did, I don't know, maybe a week ago or something, that installs, copies over and installs a few things that need to be done and set up on your repo for you. So I could reduce the amount of instructions that I have to give you to be able to get a Folio application running. So everything is here. So this is pretty transparent. You can see that you have the symlink and wire force options. This is only if you want to symlink the uploads folder for media uploads. If you run Folio install raw, it will do all of this. It will symlink the uploads folder, ensure all directories for the assets exist, publish the image assets, the build assets as JavaScript and CSS, and also publish the Webpack mix, so you can build the Folio assets yourself if you opt in to publish the development assets as well. That is able to, you can do that just by running this command and doing this. We're not going to cover that today, maybe. I don't know. Maybe we have a bit more time later. So let's see how that installation is going. So you see there is a bunch of dependencies, the ones you find there, and some of their dependencies that have been installed. Now this thing is cloning the Folio repository from DevMaster. It's cloning that. And a few warnings there that we don't need to care about right now. Maybe too many warnings to ignore. And now this just does the dump autoload. Okay, this is the first error that we usually find when we're trying to install Folio, and this is something that I'm trying to get away to get rid of, right? This means you just don't have access to any database on the local system, so that's easily fixable. So we can just go to whatever database you have, so in your local machine or your remote machine, and you will get just a database that is already there and works, and you don't have to do any migrations because the database is already there, or create a new one. So for this tutorial I'm going to create this one, so the Folio Quick Start database, and that's it. So it's an empty database. We're gonna set that up on or an environment file. We should have actually configured this before, not after we see the error. So we would have saved that error, and now you can see here on this, I just put that and root. Really safe password, right? Don't use these passwords on your production environment. So now that that's done, there is a part of the artisan command that gets run after composer require composer install. That is the actual dump autoload. You can see that because it failed, we're gonna have to run it again because it removed the folio dependency from our composer.json file because it wasn't able to finish the process properly. So so I think that will be it. So we get this back, and now we're gonna just see sort of the same process before. We will have all the packages on the cache, so that will just download them once again. And let's see. So after we get the packages we need installed, we're gonna be able to run that install command that I was talking to you about before, and that should be here, right? So that command here that is doing all this stuff. If you're curious, you can see how I'm dealing with all of this to get all the things in Folio installed, and just to ensure some folders exist. Some of the things that we're overriding, we can also do things like asking the user. So for instance here, if a symlink is already existing, I ask if you want to override it to avoid destroying things that the user might have set up already. Okay, let's go back, see that. Okay, that seems now we have Folio installed. We have Folio installed, but it's not gonna run. So we go here, right? The default Laravel page shows up. There's something new, is that the login page, because Folio actually creates a Folio route. That's one of the things that Folio does, right? As you can see, there's no CSS, and if we go to the Folio route, we'll see an error. So, the database doesn't have the proper tables that it needs to work with, and some other things, right? So the first thing we can do, we can run this Folio install command. So let's just run that here. And as I said before, let's see. So we have just added that in this step, and we've actually resolved some of the dependencies of our system. So as I promised before, we're gonna log every single step of the process, so you can check the commit history and see what we've been doing. And this step would be just composer require Nono ESP Folio dev master. When the change is generated by a command, I like to just write the command there, because even if a lot of stuff was done there, the user can make more sense to, okay, somebody has run this install command or this require command, instead of actually doing all that stuff manually and thinking that you have to do really complex stuff there. Sending that to GitHub. And this is also gonna clean give us a slate clean changes page, because when I do git artisan folio install, you see webpack mix already exists, you want to override it. Okay, let's say yes, Folio was installed successfully. So we've added a bunch of crap, right? Like some things that Folio needs to run, and also symlinked the uploads folder and created the uploads folder into the public image directory. So if we open this Laravel project, we can see that in the storage app public, we have this new uploads folder that didn't exist before, was created 6/11. That's right now. And also we have in public, we have this thing that is a symlink to that folder, uploads folder. That was done automatically by Folio. And also it added these fonts vendor folder, which has all the dependencies of web fonts. This is just font awesome. And then the Folio assets. These are pre-built assets that you can use right away to work with Folio. This is a bit heavy, I know, but we need to reduce that, make some effort. But this is already a lot cleaner than it used to be in version 6. So this has some assets that the core Folio installation will give you for free, and now we're ready to work with them. As you can see, we still had that problem where, let me see, so that problem where Laravel Folio won't run because of the database problem, right? What do we do with that? Just follow the instructions. Just PHP artisan migrate to create the database tables. What migrate does, for those of you who are not familiar, we have an empty table, so an empty database here with no tables, and what we need to do is just create those tables, right? So what Laravel offers is artisan migrate, which just by defining migration PHP files, which look exactly like this. Where is it? So migrations. Yeah. So for instance, this is a migration that I made to create the items table, and Folio table gives you the prefix that you're using for Folio database tables, and that would be by default Folio underscore. So we'll see Folio underscore items for this one. And there's a bunch of things that get done here. You can take a deeper look, but for us, we just need to do PHP artisan migrate. You can see all the migrations. That's kind of sleek, right? They just run, you get confirmation, and now when we go to our empty database, we have that created with, failed jobs. That's something that Laravel creates. There's no failed jobs, and there are 50 migrations that have been run. This is something that Laravel keeps to be able to revert it. And we can even, with migrations, we can even pre-populate things. So I created here on the migration a subscriber that just a dummy subscriber just to populate some data. And a cool thing here is that, we could do PHP artisan migrate reset. And if you don't have any information, this will delete actually your database and you will lose any data. So be careful with this. I can run this. It will revert or roll back all those and leave my table or my database as it was. It just leaves the migration tables there because it will, it will create it again otherwise. And what we just do is we'll just run those migrations because we need this to be there to run with Folio. Make sure that, to understand. So these commands and migrations have, it has instructions on how to take up or down migration. So this migration, to take it up, creates this table with all these fields, and to take it down, it just drops the entire table. So that means that if I have let's see, if I go here and I want to create a new table, I wouldn't, so for example, Folio, or let's say Nono custom table, right? Number of column 4, let's just do 2. And I say here I have ID name or something. Okay, so I now have this extra table on my database. If I run the reset command, it's going to roll back the migrations. It doesn't mean it's going to delete everything on the database. So this that wasn't created by my migrations is not going to be touched, even though I'm going to remove it now. And we're just going to go back to having everything set up. What this does is that these tables allow Folio to work with data. And now this error, we can just refresh. And now we have an empty, fresh installation of Folio. We can go back to our home where we had the login page, or just type login there. And we won't be able to log in here because there are no users on our database, right? We're using the default users table that Folio, so that Laravel does with its default migrations, but Folio adds a few more fields here at the end to be able to do other operations. So what do we do here? This is something that I didn't really log in my instructions because this is more Laravel generic, and maybe I should. So what you do here, the best way that I found out that I like doing that, well, you can do this, I don't know if you're familiar with Artisan Tinker, but you can do it here. So you could just do app user create, and you could, it's failing because I haven't specified name or email or whatever. I could do here name and say Peter, and we're missing now email. And now we're going to be missing password, right? So you can create it like this. And let's try this, right? Just put an unsecure password there. Okay, so that is there, and that now has been created on the database. That's not going to let us log in because this is an unsafe, non-hashed password. So I do peter@gmail.com, Peter's password. Oh, doesn't work. I will have to hash that. And the manual way, right, that you can do is hash make, and now say, okay, if we want the password to be Peter, or let's just do whatever. This is what you actually need to put as password. That is hashed with the key, secret key. You shouldn't show this to people. The base64 key that you've encoded your application with. That also is something that gets generated automatically by Laravel. You can see, every time I run this command that gets run automatically, that URL is going to be, so that base64 string is going to be updated. So I can now set this, right? So we set this password. And now if I do Peter@gmail let's try again. That's because we waited too long. And now we're in. So, but let's do this. Let's create the user the Folio way. So that's why I made a user command where you can just specify, okay, let's just do nono@gmail.com, which doesn't exist. And then my password would be as well. And my name is going to be Nono Martínez Alonso, right? So that's a Folio command that I did where you just put the raw email, password, and name, and then the password gets hashed behind the scenes. Okay, so user gets created, user was created successfully. We can see that exists here, so it's Nono@gmail and the password encrypted. And now we just go here. Right, so I accessed an empty Folio application. So what is Folio? Folio, this is the backend of Folio. This is a content management system that we have right now where, I could leave from here and enter back. And by default, you have it, the root folder is at Folio, right? That's a root path. And here you would see the posts that you've created. So if we get in here and we create a new post, so let's actually just grab information from here, so we don't have to write now, and we can do it quickly. So for instance, that one is actually get the real text. So this is markdown support, we put that there, and now we put that this is a blog post. Oh. So this is something I hadn't seen before. Well, I've seen before, but I think this has to do with the version of PHP that is running. Let's actually try to quickly debug this. Okay, so long story short, this is an error. I don't really want to spend too much time on why that's happening at the moment. But you can see, what Folio has here is a list of the posts. You can activate, deactivate. There's a bunch of stuff. We're not going to go into details today. Let's just try this template quickly. Okay, so this actually renders the post, and this error is still there for some reason that I think is with the PHP version. All right, so this works there, and we're going to be able to see the actual Folio page. I can probably just leave that aside for a different video, just come back later. And all right. Okay, so we got to here, and what I wanted to, as an overview, if I go here now up to here, all that we've done, right, in terms of the changes to the repo, is that these changes have been generated by this command, right? And we're gonna post that to GitHub. So you can see that really, because I've tried to simplify the workflow for using Folio, we didn't really have to do too much. It's something that is fairly easy. But even so, you don't really have to do that anymore. So I've set up this for you. And now we install Folio, and now we just do the PHP artisan install command, Folio install command. So why do this, right? This is something that allows me to reproduce that Folio keeps working, that Folio is not breaking and can work with the latest Laravel version, or clone it into a production environment and quickly have it running to see if it's working in that environment. Let me just copy quickly these instructions here. Well, let's actually just leave it like that. So the summary that I wanted to do is that here we have a few instructions, and we forgot to do this last one. This is the only thing that really is manual right now, this and that, like to actually put those. And probably there's some way programmatically to do this one, and this one will require a bit of just processing on the file to add those lines. But my idea is that all of this can be done by just a few commands, right? That you just can automate and create a new Laravel application and just automate these commands there. So let's just add this there just to complete the tutorial. So it says add the following middleware to app HTTP kernel, right, in the middleware groups web. So that is here. So we just paste it there, and that's it. What this does, this locale, so this set locales middleware, is that before every web request, it's going to make sure that we're setting the right locale for the translations to be rendered in, because Folio items use a SPAT translatable package, and that way we make sure that every single time that, for example, a user from Spain accesses a website, they're going to get the Spanish version of the Folio items. And that is here. So we see a set of, and we also filter by supported languages, and because there are some languages that crash. And if there's nothing available, we're just going to fall back to English. But you can see there's some process here to get the configuration locales and get the first one and stuff. And that is actually set on Folio's config. That's something I haven't really talked about, right? We should probably do as well today. So we have this huge folio config file. This is what lets you make your folio installation yours, right? And that's something that is below here. So after we've done that, we're just gonna make this last commit that says add set locales to app http kernel web middleware, and we're going to publish the config. So you can see that here we can not only publish config but also the views to customize them, translations, and the assets. The assets are explained here on how to customly build it. We'll not do that today. We won't do it today, but I'm going to copy this command. So this command, you can see on the changes here, is just going to publish the config folio php, and this allows us to customize many things. So where the admin is located at in terms of route, the path prefix for all the items, or you can also set it to this, to an empty string, to have the, so that is something that I really like. So when you get this item, right, the first item, you can go with folio test 1. You see that this folio path is there because we set it up here by default, right? So you could set that to blog, and then your post is at blog dash and whatever the slag is, or we can set it to nothing, and then all the posts are absolute. You can also leave that as blog, for instance. So we just have that as blog, but then more specifically, we can set a explicit URL here. So we say Google, for instance, and then our Google route on the page is that post, right? There are many things. You could also remove that, and now this doesn't work because you gotta put the blog page here. All right, so what we've done there is actually just run that command. And okay, so that's all that I wanted to do today. So I just wanted to do the minimal install that I can have to have an empty Laravel 7 application running with Folio. And you can browse all the steps here. So you can see now, if I go here, actually, how do we do this? There's a way to, this is the fresh Laravel install, and each of those changes has an individual diff, or the difference in code from here to here, or then from here to here, from here to here, right? But what if we want to see the diff from here to here, right? There's an easy way. If I click here, I clone the hash for that comment. In any repo, you can put here the repo URL, compare, and then write a hash, dot, copy another hash, and then paste it here. And you can see now that is giving us the diff from the fresh Laravel install to the most up-to-date version that we have. So if we just browse through here, we added the locales, we added this, and then require folio. Composer log got updated by Composer. We published our folio configuration file and changed that to blog. There's a bunch of stuff here we're not going to see now. We published the assets, and I think that's it. Yep, and we published the webpack, but this is done by the install command. So yeah, that's what I wanted to cover today. We're going to just put here a fresh Laravel 7 application with Folio. On this, you can go here to know more. Yeah, and this is what I wanted to change. So let's just change that before wrapping up. Okay. All right, so that should be it. Right, so I'm editing the README file from the GitHub page. So now you'll see that that's also here in a div. Everything we've removed, everything we've added. And to get those, because you can see that's still not up to date, I can do git pull, and then that gets loaded locally with the most up-to-date version. So the last thing that we need to do is just to test it. See if we can clone this, just do composer install, and if everything's working, and then we'll be done. So we just get this repo. I'm gonna close everything here. And I'm gonna go to desktop. I'm actually gonna remove that repo. This takes long because it's removing all the composer vendor packages. So I do git clone, do that, and I'm actually, just to be faster, I'm gonna enter that directory after cloning, and I'm gonna do composer install node dev. That makes sure that we don't install development dependencies. And after that, we're gonna do, because we haven't run the valet link command, so the folio.test URL should be still there. So we're gonna go to open folio.test and also open folio.test Google. That is the post we created. All right. So if we do that, right now we've cloned the same repo that we had before. So that should be good because we just synchronize all our code there. This is installing all of the dependencies of Folio into that project. And once it finishes, it's just going to fail, right? Who can guess why it's gonna fail? So the reason why it's gonna fail is because when I remove the folder, I also removed the environment file, right? And this is where the error gets to. So I can see here that there's no environment file. We can see that Laravel ships with this example file for security. You know, when I upload it with my password, that didn't get committed because Laravel Git ignores that by default. You can see that here, right? So you can see that that environment file is not published. So now I have my environment file. I just have to do here my changes, folio, quick start, root, and now I do composer install node-dev again. Everything's installed, so it's just doing the dump out loading the files. That should work, and we can now go to folio.test. So that's the empty. Oops. Right, so that's working. I can log in as before. I can see that because I didn't delete the database, so it's still connected to that. And I can go to that post. So that means, that we need to probably do something here, and is that this is, we not only need to do this, we need to do copy and set your So that's all we did, right? We just do copy emb example to emb, do that, and config. And then composer install, and then PHP artisan serve. But this is something that It's optional. I didn't have to do it because we are using Valet. So that's it. Okay, so let's once again try it. I'm gonna copy my database config. Well, I'm actually gonna copy, I'm gonna copy from here. I'm just gonna copy this to have that later, not have to do it. And we're gonna remove that. We're gonna clone. Okay. And then we're gonna go inside that. Now we're just gonna do this. So emp example to emp. I'm gonna do php artisan key generate. Why doesn't this work? And it's because Composer has to be installed before then. So we have another thing to change here. Okay, so I'm gonna still go here. I'm gonna override my database information. I'm gonna move this below. And now I do that. Right. So now I just have to regenerate the key. And now that should work. All right, so we're back. Let's try it. So we remove this. Right, so yeah, so that's working. All right, so you can head up to github.com/nonoesp/follow-quickstart. And this is what I wanted to cover today. So I just wanted to go through this so you know what the inner workings of Folio are. And there's so much to cover in Folio, so I'll probably just do a separate video for that. But this is just a way to understand how or the role that Folio plays in your Laravel application, right? Laravel, it's its own thing. It allows you to do a bunch of things that Folio just gets for free. And then Folio adds a lot of stuff on the back end, and we'll probably see a lot of other videos to present your content in different ways, and how you can edit, what it means to use Folio, and why do I use it for. I think it's a hacky content management system that allows me to do whatever I want. I try to make it really flexible, and that's the reason why I keep developing it. Sometimes it's not that easy to maintain it long term because after you have many websites, what I try to do is that just with the Composer update command, all the new features get spread out. But then there's some structural changes that I'm still doing because this is a beta project, and many times it requires, when you change the location or the system in which files get uploaded, that we didn't even see that today, that requires that you do some manual changes throughout all the applications that are running that version because you're doing breaking changes. So yeah, it's still not a stable system, but it's getting there. I'm trying to synthesize or simplify some of the things and processes that you need to do to be able to run Folio. And yeah, so thank you. That was Nono here, trying to show you some of the stuff that I'm doing lately and making this available open source out there. I hope you enjoyed it. So if you like this video, please subscribe down below on the right left corner, and make sure to turn on notifications so you know when I release new videos or when I do a live stream or something like that. Thank you so much. Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at NonoESP, so that same username. And just leave some comments or like the video if you liked it, or let me know what you think. Thank you so much. Bye.